As for your companion's journey, it will aid his pain. And she hands it to you very delicately.
Can I do a botany check on it to understand, like open the pouch and look at it
Uh,
and understand?
right away, you know that it's meat. It's some kind of meat.
Okay. Okay.
Um, all right. As she does this,
Excellent.
is there anything else you're wanting to say or do? Just want to
Well,
make sure.
yeah. Since she did the gesture with him and kind of pulled away and offered meat to Wotek, understanding another great favor that she offered that she granted him. So he is very thankful and puts the meat in his pouch and just sort of puts his fist over his chest as a final thank you and bows his head again slowly.
Okay.
So I will
All
make a
right.
note. Can I just say meat in pouch or
Yes,
something like that?
that is
Bear
totally
food,
fine.
meat in pouch. Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. And at this, she kind of nods to you once more. She looks around just to make sure nobody else has anything to say. She looks over at you, Akama, and she nods and she actually pulls out a small tube from her pocket as well. And as she hands it over to you, you realize that it's some kind of like cigar. And she just looks at you with a kind of devilish smile.
And then I look at her and give her a grin and then take a slight bow. And then
Okay.
I'll go ahead and say thank you.
Okay. And uh, as she hears you say thank you, she chuckles, kind of slyly, and she goes, "Don't thank me yet," with that same fucking Cheshire cat grin. And then she turns to you, Ren, and she nods again, and she simply says, "I will be I will be in touch in the future." She says, "I promise you, you have started something great here, and I hope that you will find a reward someday, uh, someday in the future from now." And she kind of nods, and you get this sense that she knows something about the sequence that you gave her. She knows something about the system, something about this situation that you don't. But she is absolutely not doing more than giving a sly kind of whisper of a hint about it. But your genuine impression is that she wants to help you with whatever that knowledge is. So take that for whatever it may be. Okay, at this, she begins walking away. Everybody good?
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, with her. Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm done with her.
Excellent. She heads
Get
back
on.
inside, and after she's gone, Harmony looks around at you guys and she says, "So let's get down to it." She says, "We must leave shortly, and we will not be back until this evening." She says, "As I said before, we're going to be leaving in the morning." She says, "But we have much to do yet today." As she does this, she actually nods over to the transport depot with the vehicles that you guys had passed earlier, and that you can actually see from your vantage point down over next to one of the main roads in town. And as she does that, you get the impression she's going to get transportation from the depot somewhere and then return this evening, probably stay the night, and then they'll be out of here in the morning to wherever they're going. She says that when her friend, the monk, and she kind of stammers a little bit, losing her nerve, she says when he died, she says that there was a schism created in the power structure of Metadyne. This sounds overly complicated for what happened, and you're not sure why exactly she's using that kind of terminology. Bear, you hear something that sounds kind of it hits your ear wrong anyway, but you even pick up something in the way she phrases that seems off. She then says that there are now additional things that she and Pilgrim must attend to, and they must get to them as quickly as possible, and that is the reason for their haste. Now, she says that she wants all of you to know that she will be keeping an eye on your progress, and she says that she has decided that she wants to help you guys in a few different ways. She puts her head down and she says very, very somberly, I don't know what we would have done without you, and I don't think we would have gotten out of that situation alive. And you can all tell she's being very genuine when she says this. Okay. At this, she looks up and she motions over to you, Ren, and she says, "Good wizard, may I use your display for a moment," and points at your computer gauntlet.
Yeah.
Okay, and as you reach it out to her, she takes.
Hold on. Let me clear history real quick. Hold on.
Right. All right, as you reach it over, she takes out a data plug and she connects it to one of the ports. And as she does so, you guys all see on Ren's arm display you guys all see this. All right, now, she says that, oh, come on. Hopefully it loaded okay for you guys.
I'm getting a body of water with, looks like a nexus point and ley lines running across, but
Good. Okay, good.
big sort of stone archway.
they're going through an archway. And then I guess there's a waterfall leading down to a basin with water running off into smaller.
Yeah, like
Excellent.
tributaries leading into.
Okay, so, Harmony says, this is a map of the surrounding area. She says, we all came in here at the keep. She says it's located right next to the nexus point on Reflex Point, which is the island. Let's see here. Okay. She says, here we go. She says that after you arrived, you guys all disembarked here at the docks. And that you all took that route on the escort ship. Okay? That show up okay for everybody?
There's a bit.
Okay.
But yeah,
Perfect. I like
so
it.
the dot to the right, is that where we're at now, or is that where
We're on the island.
And then you guys all
So we're in the
took the
middle.
ship over to Sinner's Cove.
No, so we're on Sinner's Cove. We're on the far right. We're not on the.
Correct.
middle piece. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. You guys appeared on the island, left by the docks, took that boat path, and then arrived at Sinner's Cove. At this point, are you guys over on the left-hand side of the lake? Are you guys seeing it cut off in a weird way?
Yeah, it's just kind of like the bottom right.
Okay.
It's just kind of cut off.
Yeah, that's just another
Or bottom left. I
little-
mean, bottom left and bottom right.
Yeah, that's just glitching for some reason, but I'm sure next time we jump in, it'll be good. All right, so now you guys are located at Sinner's Cove. She says there are several options for adventurers to choose from this point. She says, I'd like to go over some of them with you so that you're a little better informed of what lies ahead. Okay. Okay. So she says that the next assignment that they have, that they will be starting tomorrow morning, is that they need to reach the Temple of the Saints. She hits a few buttons and shows this to all of you. It is located to the west of Sinner's Cove. She says to reach the Temple of the Saints, one must first make it over to the large ascending staircase-like natural feature that is called the Path of the Saints. That's directly to the north of the large, near mountainous plateau that the temple actually sits on. Apparently, the most direct and safest route is to indeed head over to the base of the mountains to the north and then ascend directly up to the temple. You would assume that if a person's able to fly or use any kind of non-conventional means, they could just go directly to it if they wished. She says that at the temple, there are several very powerful beings that are in need of aid. She doesn't really elaborate on this, and she says, this brings me to one of the major points that you all must know. She says, in order for you to be recruited, let's just kill that. In order for you to be recruited by these organizations that you're applying to, she says you must first get some renown for your group. She says the more well-known you are and the better reputation you have for solving problems and achieving your goals, the more lucrative contract you will be able to sign when you finally pick an organization. She says, as I have told you, I would very much like for you to consider membership in Metadyne. She says, but the rules of this competition dictate that none of us may lay a claim on any of you prospects until the job fair is over. She says, with this in mind, we can make inroads to getting in your good graces ahead of time. And she kind of makes a slight bow and a flourish with her hands to the side, almost like a ta-da on stage. And she says, and thus we find ourselves where I am wishing to help you with your goals. She nods briefly and says, the ways that you can prove yourselves are varied and many in number. She says, for instance, what you have achieved in this town is indeed glorious. It will impact the lives of these residents until they pass and well into their future generations' their future generations' lives. She says, this settlement now has the opportunity to become something truly magnificent, and it's directly thanks to your efforts. She says, you risked your own lives in order to help these individuals, and she bows her head slightly and says, some organizations will not see that as worthy of praise, unfortunately. She says, but Metadyne is predicated on the preservation of life and the maintenance of the natural order of good versus evil. Now, this sounds a little esoteric for what you would all kind of perceive to be just super powered individuals. That's a little it all just seems a little convoluted rather than just a group of supers that have decided to help people. But again, perhaps a subject for another day. She continues on and says that you definitely have earned glory in the eyes of fellow organizations that would uphold these values. She says, and so she says, know that this will be the first of hopefully many marks of honor that you will be able to present before prospective employers to get an appropriate contract for recompense for future services. She says, I cannot stress how important this is for each of your professional careers. With this, she says, one option for future glory could be accompanying them to the Temple of Saints. She says, as I have stated previously, many powerful beings who have much influence in the local area have need of adventurers who are capable to take care of local matters for them. She says, I cannot speak for any of these individuals, but I do know that the temple is run by beings of honor and morality. She says, although I will tell you that the temple itself houses ancient evils and beings as diabolical and unscrupulous as found anywhere in the Megaverse. Okay, she also says that she and Pilgrim plan tomorrow morning on taking one of the mobile transports, she calls it, from Sinner's Cove directly to the Path of Saints, and then they intend to ascend to the temple first thing tomorrow. She says that you're all welcome to accompany them if you choose. She says that another local area of interest that many of the local communities and individuals seem to be concerned about is, here we go, the area directly to the north of the Temple of the Saints. She says there are several small communities clustered within this area. She says the first of which is known as the Plug. And another one close to Sinner's Cove and the temple is called Frost Base Spark. She says there are several other communities and settlements locally, but we'll leave those for discussion at another time as they probably won't be of any consequence in your immediate future.
Where's Whistler's Coast compared to here? From what the map that I have. From the destination, because we had been given that location at one point.
Whistler's, that is, I will show you on the over map. That's actually to the north of where you guys are now.
So it would show up on this little one.
No.
Whistler's Perch.
Whistler's Perch, sorry.
Correct.
Perch.
But we will visit that in a moment here. So as she explains that there is the Plug, Firebase Spark, and the Bitter Creep, she says that the Bitter Creep seems to be some kind of spreading frigid cold that nobody can explain. And at this, she just shakes her head in a kind of frustrated manner, and she says, "But again, I won't drag on with unnecessary details." She says, "If you all choose to enter that region, you will find more on your own there." She says, "Another area of interest that I think you all should know about is not so much a where, uh, but a roving what." And with this, she makes another long line, which appears to show a travel route. And she tells you that this is the path of the wandering aristocrat. Now, none of this seems familiar to any of you. But the way she says it is just very matter of fact, like everybody would know what it is. But she also has a kind of sly look in her eye to see if any of you have any kind of sign of recognition in your eyes about it. When she sees that none of you do, like she's looking at you kind of side-eyed and glancing between each of you, very carefully studying as soon as she says the words, "the path of the wandering aristocrat." But as nobody seems to have any recollection or knowledge of it, she gets a broad smile across her face, and she says, "I know it travels a long route." She says, "but I have a feeling that you can find it if you're looking." She says, "It is a place where one can resupply and find," and she pauses and then picks up again with an even broader smile, many treasures indeed." She kind of chuckles a little and says, "I highly suggest that you all find some time in your travels to look for it if you can." And at that, she very quickly changes the subject. She says, uh, "If you choose to take a direct route to the north and start heading directly to KeterFall, then what you are going to want to do is to take the next ferry out of Sinner's Cove." And as she... Okay. Sorry, give me 1 second here. I want to make sure. You guys can see the yellow line, correct?
Yes, I see it, but that's going to nothing that I can see right now.
It's
I don't see an
going
M.
north to
The waterfall or water feature above.
the
Uh,
rushing water river thing.
Sorry, I'm just trying to grab the name of it. It's between two tiles. It's tough to do. Well, anyway, that is the actual ferry route. She says that you guys are able to book passage from Sinner's Cove in the morning if you choose, and you're able to take that route up to the northern edge of the territory. There we go. That is right there at the edge of what appears to be some cliffs. And she says that those docks have large industrial lifts set up to haul cargo up the cliff face, and that the settlement at the top of that precipice is called Spear's Edge. She says that area is basically the launching point for most adventurers leaving the... This would help too. Make sure this isn't on map. That's fucking tough because I've got so much stuff layered on here. But anyway, she says that the main body of water itself is called Lake Silvershine. This whole body of water, okay? And she says that Spear's Edge to the north is basically the launching point for everybody that arrives at Reflex Point, at Reflex Keep there, and then launches forward from this area. She says that almost nobody chooses to go south when they arrive here because the southern lands are known to be incredibly inhospitable to humanoid life. She says there's rumored to be vast wastelands where the undead rule and hold dark kingdoms, sending out raiding parties to any surrounding humanoid kingdoms for food and slave labor. She says very little information is known, though, as most have no interest in the area as there are no natural resources or desirable life forms to harvest. All right. At this, let's see. She says that when they head to the Temple of Saints, she says that she will be able to contact the Grandmaster again and turn in her report, and then she and Pilgrim will get further guidance from there, but that their next destination, hopefully after the temple, will be heading directly to Whistler's Perch, to rendezvous with their contact. This all looks good. Okay. Finally, she catches herself and she goes, "Oh, just a moment." She says, "Know that if you do head north," let's see. She says, "If you do head north on the ferry," she says, "you need to know that there may be some danger." There we go. She says, "First, you will probably encounter opposition in the Fey Collar hunting grounds." You guys all see the purple?
Yeah, purple oval. Yes.
She says within the hunting grounds, on the western shore, on a large outcropping, there is a strange and dark facility from the Golden Age, which you all know to mean from the pre-apocalyptic zenith of human technology. Anytime somebody says that phrase, it elicits usually saliva in adventurers in profuse quantities, because one of the biggest things that adventurers are always looking for are relics from the Golden Age where technology was far superior to what it is now. Any such relics can fetch a king's ransom, literally, because each one could be the key to solving completely unsolvable problems of the current age. So this is always a much sought after clue when people are looking for possible sites of salvage. Okay. And so when she mentions the Dark Star Observatory off on that kind of outcropping, the way she says it, it almost sounds like she's trying to suggest you guys don't go there. But for some reason, she did mention it, right? And she wouldn't have if she just didn't even want it in your head. But something about she almost feels like compelled, like she has to at least fairly mention it. She says to you, I recommend you steer very, very clear of this location. She says, I have had bad experiences trying to reach it, although I have heard that there is much of value inside. Um, at this, she kind of shakes her head in distaste and she goes, the final note that I will give you is at the end of the Fey Collar hunting grounds. You will encounter an area that is known to all of the locals. There we go. As the Shimmer. She says that section of water is treacherous for its dimensional shifts. She says, as you pass through, hopefully the ferry will get you through safely. She says, but there are no guarantees, and people understand that taking this route, even though safer than any other to get north, is still extremely fraught with peril. The local ley lines assure this at all times. Okay. At this, she removes the data plug, and you guys now have this map that you can call on whenever you'd like. You are able, as you discover things, to add more map points as well. Okay? All right. And at that, she steps back. Let's see. Let's go here. And at that, she steps back and kind of looks at all of you, kind of seeing if you have any questions that you'd like to ask.
I will say we haven't discussed, obviously, since we were just told of all these things. But once we do discuss, and if we are in agreement, if possibly we want to go with you to the temple, I do have a vehicle, so you wouldn't have to possibly ascertain one here if we find an agreement to head there next. We could assist you there.
At this, she looks a little concerned and she nods and she says, I appreciate the offer, but I would prefer to take our established route. She says, I know the local transpo depot is outfitted with appropriate vehicles for the area. And she holds a hand up kind of in supplication and says, no offense to your vehicle. I just want to make sure that
you talking about the animal claws coming on my tires so I can climb?
The animal, yeah.
The animal.
So she does say though that she knows that most of their large transports, the ones that she'll be taking, they actually have room for smaller vehicles. Although she doesn't really, she hasn't looked at your vehicle very closely, so she assumes that it would probably fit if it's a small ground vehicle. So
so they're talking big transport.
Yes, that's the impression you get. And when you had gone by the depot earlier, because that's where your vehicle had been unloaded, the vehicles that you saw were huge. They were easily large enough to load one of your vehicles into, maybe even two if they had kind of like a bunk bed set up in the back, kind of storage system. So, okay. So at that, what does everybody want to do?
Probably go somewhere to discuss what we're gonna do and get out of this rain.
Okay.
Just
we'll say that we'll say that when BB had talked to you guys about having room and board, we're gonna say that she had mentioned that just let the staff know. So basically, if you guys are needing a place to stay or whatever, you basically just need to talk to somebody at the bar and they'll get you set up. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And with
Did
this,
good.
with this, Harmony and Pilgrim seem like they're about to head off in the direction of the vehicle depot, but they're just checking to see if there's any more questions or anything like that. So, does anybody want to ask anything or?
Ymir has just been quietly contemplating all the information that Harmony has laid out as he's watching Ren's screen.
Okay.
So he just takes notes of all the information, like mental notes.
Excellent. Excellent. And Akama, anything you're wanting to do or say?
I'm just in my head concerned about all the crazy, like, safety nets that we have to pull through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just in my head, just thinking like, where to go, how to do things. Do we got all the things we need? Do we have any type of like safety protocol, maybe safe words or something, just in case?
Okay.
Mine's
All right.
pineapple.
Mine's meatloaf.
You guys are lucky I speak English at 50%.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but this is in my head, so you guys don't hear me.
I'm just saying, if we're establishing safe words, you're lucky that I speak English at 50%.
Ymir, understand. Me choke you too hard. You say pineapple. Me let go.
Right. They do it rough in Russia. They do it rough.
Right.
All right, guys. Okay, so with that, Harmony and Pilgrim head over to the transport depot. Let's just get them out of here real quick. We can tidy up.
They're walking
there.
away. I say, oh, and just to make sure, we're gonna meet again later tonight, correct? Just to at least go over if we are coming or not. It's just so you don't leave when you leave.
Or tomorrow.
She says
Yeah,
as
but I
long
don't know when they're gonna leave.
she says as long as you guys are here tonight, actually she says if you're interested in joining us, she says why don't you meet us at the transport depot at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning,
Perfect.
and we'll go from there.
Savvy.
All right.
Have a great trip.
Ymir nods.
Stay safe.
She nods
Throw
you.
up a peace sign and go, bye!
She nods, gives you like a 2-finger kind of half salute, and they
World
turn and
fingers.
stalk off in the rain and disappear into the gloom. You guys are standing on the front porch, off to the side. What is everybody wanting to do?
You guys want to...
Okay, this is a good opportunity to tell you guys what I wanted to tell you before. So, kind of, this is part of the meta of the game, so keep that in mind. At this point now, our players have all kind of figured out who they are, understand why they're working together. Everybody has gone through some combat. We've overcome some challenges. Everybody's leveled up. We've completed a quest, gotten rewards, and kind of wrapped up the loose ends for the most part. So this
the
is
tutorial.
it exactly. So the tutorial is over. At this point now, I am going to shift the difficulty considerably. You guys know what you're responsible for the most part. I'm going to expect if you want to turn on a flashlight, if you guys want to record something and write it down, if you want to use a certain skill, anything that you guys are wanting to do, I really want you to start throwing it out there, because as we shift into the more kind of difficult levels of this, I am going to start moving a lot more quickly. I mean, a lot more quickly. So as I'm starting to move through the story at an increased pace, you guys are going to need to jump in and interject a lot more than you have, because what I've been doing is asking, what do you do now? A lot of that's going to go by the wayside in interest of us being able to kind of really cruise
That's fine. A
along.
lot of my waiting has been because you've been having like big descriptions. I didn't want to interrupt, but
Yes.
knowing that I will definitely when there's something pops up.
You guys will notice we're about to get into a different gear for sure. So, all right. With that being said, I just want to make one last final note. This also means that you guys will need to do a lot more kind of prep if you want to be able to get everything in, because moving more quickly, there'll be a lot less time in game for us to do some of the exposition that we have been. So I would really recommend the things we've gone over, especially in Level Up, really start hitting what you want to be researching, working on, building, learning, developing, focusing on everything in the off time, because a lot of your off time I'm going to be just giving you in chunks of, you guys have a few hours, what do you do? And we want to go real quickly. I want to be working on this project. I want to be learning
Real quick,
this. Yes,
I
sir.
don't know how to do any of that yet because we haven't stopped yet. So I haven't had a cooldown time to know how to play my character during rests and cooldowns. I haven't had time to learn how to experiment and tinker with things. It's like a big part of my job. So
No
I
worries
might
at all.
need some assistance still with that, just to give you a heads up, because out of the tutorial I didn't get that section,
Absolutely.
and so I might be a bit rough on that still.
And that's a great point. Anybody that has something for their character, like, research, anything like that you guys want to be working on, learning spells, blah, 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 tattoos, the whole 9 yards, even backstory stuff. Anything people have, get a hold of me. We'll do a session.
Yeah, I've
just
already
with
mentioned
us.
to you I'd probably try to get a hold of you during the week if I need help
Absolutely.
and stuff.
And
For sure.
we'll go over all of that stuff so that you guys all feel comfortable. No worries at all. Yeah, excellent. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that stuff? Excellent. Okay, so with the remaining time this evening, I'd like to find out what you guys are wanting to do. You definitely have the option of getting a room in the tavern. There's lots of rooms available, and you have the option of getting a room, resting, eating, just basically kicking back and recuperating. Or you obviously can go out, explore. You can do anything that you'd like. So with the remaining, let's see, we said about noon, say maybe 1 o'clock. So we're looking at 12 hours to 1. So you guys have, a good, like 17 hours or so, 17, 18 hours until you guys would need to be over at the depot. So what would each of you like to really be doing?
Well, I thought we were going to walk inside the bar at first and discuss our next steps and
That's fine. If that's
get a plan going.
if that's step one, where do you guys want to be, in the bar itself, or are you wanting to kind of get into a room to do this, or what would you like to do?
Let's move toward a like a room, so we're not
Yeah,
talking amongst other people.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that because Wojtek needs rest anyway. So Ymir's thinking about that, but he wants to have the meeting still with his partners.
Okay. So you guys essentially go in, you speak to Sissy at the bar as you don't see BB, and she is able to get you guys set up with a really nice room. There's a large, mega damage steel hammock set up in the corner of the room, which would easily accommodate you, Ymir. It's got lots of big furs and padding on it to make an actual comfortable experience. And there's a nice fire going in the corner. You guys have a table that's set up with plenty of ale, as well as a bottle of what appears to be whiskey, and several glasses. There's a large mug for you, Ymir. Lots of consideration has been put into making sure that you guys have some snacks and that everything's as comfortable as this environment and this place will allow. With that being said, you all have room to sleep, and everybody is set. You sit at a large table that's in the middle of the room, and as you guys all grab your refreshments, you're able to go ahead and have your conversation. So why don't you guys talk amongst yourselves and figure out, what you're doing.
Ymir first sets the translator down in the middle of the table so the conversation can flow as smoothly as it possibly can.
Beautiful. All right. You definitely feel like you're going to be able to, everybody should get pretty much the gist of anything that isn't too complicated. So good thinking. All right.
I go ahead and I pull the blade that I removed from that spider-looking dude, and I basically show it to Ymir, and I say, "Is there anything you can do with this?"
As they're talking about this, right away, I'm pulling out the broken pieces of the broken parts of the destroyed drone, and also opening up the active working drone and kind of looking at it while in the middle of conversation, but like fiddling and looking around.
Okay. All right. You take that out and start examining it. Give me 1 second here. Okay. All right. Ymir, you see Akama produce this kind of plate of metal, and as he kind of presents it to you, you see that there's some like eldritch sigils that are etched across it. And right away, let's see,
I have metalwork and forge, so I figured that maybe could lead to information on it, or also shape, grave, and emboss metal.
do you have magic lore?
Yes.
Okay.
I have recognized weapon quality and magic monster lore. Yes, I have them both.
Okay, because you're a Kuznia, we'll use that one as like a modified, kind of like a combined skill check. Go ahead and what's your magic lore percentage?
Percentage for magic lore is I'm not seeing a percentage in the description.
For the skill,
It should be in your character sheet under skills.
No, yeah, I'm looking at the description.
we had some trouble with that one. Okay, with your bonus, let's say, and then with a metalworking, let's go ahead and say you need a 65 or under. So you could just roll a D100. I apologize, Bear. I remember we went to look at some of your skills last time, and like they were like erased. I don't even know
Nice.
what we did with that, but I will definitely get on those. Nice, excellent. Okay, so you realize right away that the sigils pertain to a very, very dark strain of necromancy that you've heard about slightly in your local region, but it's more been practiced by some of the foul sorcerers that live within some of the most enchanted and haunted mountains in Russia, far, far from any of the settlements of men. And you know that these enchantments usually have been used to try and merge magic and metal in a similar way that the Kuznia do, but in a much more primitive and barbaric fashion. and it's almost like a very primitive form of biomancy or rune magic, where in those life energy is used to instill magic into mechanical and metal creations. In this instance, it's more like a dark, negative kind of life energy that's used, the antithesis of that kind of magic. Now, you would guess that um, even though this piece has been removed, you would guess that it was some kind of power source, strangely enough, in that the metal was heavily enchanted with this kind of magic, that it was bound to the armor of the creature, and it was somehow infusing the creature with some kind of enchantment or some kind of extra measure of power. Other than that, you really don't have much of a clue on how the magic itself works, or really if there would be any way for you to try and alter it or do anything with it. You would guess that with enough time, you could try and do some experimenting with it, and if you got around the right kind of, with your magical instruments, you'd probably, with your magical hammers and tools, you'd probably be able to try and reforge it into something else. That may corrupt the enchantment, though, and without a proper kind of like blacksmith shop, as well as some alchemical kind of components, you probably wouldn't be able to do anything else as far as divining what it's capable of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to communicate this back, or how do you want to put this?
Yeah, we'll just Ymir takes a look at the blade and goes, kind of studies it, looks at it very hard, very meticulously for a second, and goes, it smacks of evil, but with time and the proper tools, I could forge something out of it. But it would take time, information, and tools.
Is this is this the plate that got taken off of it, or the actual blade?
No,
Blade.
I have the plate. The plate was granted to me. This is Akama presented me the blade that
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
You are getting the exact same information off of it. It literally is coming through as the same thing. So
Okay.
you would guess this is definitely radiating power. And I'd like to say that you've already taken a quick look at the plate when you first got it. And
Yep.
that was the general impression that you had gotten. Now that you're looking at the blade more closely, you definitely are picking up the exact same kind of enchantment on both things.
Okay, well then, then I already divined, or Ymir already divined, that the magic isn't necessarily hostile. It's more the forger and the spirit tied to the metal. So, and I could still mold. The plate was still very moldable, easily by my armor. So, the blade, even though I'm more than willing to do the research on it and stuff. But if the blade's divine the same way, then I should be able to work with it easier.
You would guess that you can definitely forge it. You're just not sure what the forging process, if because this isn't the kind of magic that you're normally able to smelt with, you're not sure what the results are going to be, or if you're going to be able to really. I mean, it's not a guaranteed success, is essentially what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, and
So, Ymir, you seem to be familiar with more natural substances, metals, bone, I take it?
He looks at Red, nods his head, and goes, "Indeed."
Well, uh, what can you read from this bone? And I'll take out the arm that was cut off that I grabbed after it stopped moving from what's his face again?
the Patriot.
The Patriot. I only keeps wanting to say Homelander every time.
Okay, so you
I'll
pull the
plop
arm
it up.
out and flop it onto the table. it's pretty rubbery. It doesn't really seem like any kind of rigor set in, and it's still the skin still looks the same color, and it stopped bleeding, but it looks rather normal. It looks like if it was ending at a shoulder attached to a body, that it wouldn't look any different than it does now. It is completely lifeless, but other than lack of motion and blood, you guys can't really see any sign that it's starting to deteriorate.
I get up and I walk toward the door and make sure it's locked. Then I go toward the windows and close the shades if there's any.
I'll try to take my blade and see if I can actually cut into it to expose some more bone to be inspected.
Then taking a look at Ren on the inside.
What? Just one second. Which blade do you want to use?
Probably my sword, considering I don't really have much else that would probably cut through this guy's flesh.
Okay. You pull the sword out, and as you start kind of scraping at the bone, you have to push way harder than it seems like you should. That is a mega damage blade that is enchanted. So
I'll look over at a combo after I start and be like, maybe you could help. Maybe a smaller, finer tool than someone
Pull
a
out
bit
my
strong.
vibral braid.
Maybe someone
and I
stronger
said,
than me.
I got you, bruh.
okay, so
And then I jig the side of like around the wrist, and then
I'll explain. I'll explain that I'm just kind of trying to fillet the arm slightly, just to open it up, butterfly it slightly to get more access to the bone.
Yep, that's what I do.
you start where? At the back
I
of
guess
the
where
arm?
from where it's cut, and then filleting
Okay.
down the arm a couple of inches so we can butterfly it open a bit to look at the bone.
Okay. The costume still is intact. As you're wanting a comma to do this, or you?
I will pull the sleeve off and take that to inspect later since it's still intact.
Okay.
But I'm having a comma use his vibroblade to open up the cut through the flesh and open up
I
the
get
arm.
you. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't handing it over to you. So
Yeah, no,
okay.
because when I tried to go at it and you said I was having some resistance and it's really hard, and since I'm not super strong and I'm also using a larger blade, I figured a more delicate blade and someone stronger would probably be better.
Okay.
So I removed the sleeve from the outfit,
Okay.
and I'm gonna stow that away to maybe inspect later to see what it's made from.
As you remove the sleeve and start stowing it, you would guess that however these guys got outfitted, it was actually done on this side of Rift's Earth, because this looks like fairly common, like mega damage pliable material, and it actually doesn't even look like it's really armored much at all. It's more like a mega damage, almost like a wetsuit or a skin suit that's just kind of made to give complete protection against, you know, flying through the air super fast, moving really quickly, debris, little things like that. But it doesn't really seem like this gave him any kind of actual real protection. Um, you do stow that away effectively, though. And one thing you notice is it seems like the blood that must have resulted from his arm being severed, if there was blood, it seems like the material must have just allowed it to slough right off, because you don't really see any residual blood at all on the material. So that does seem interesting.
So you said
Okay.
it's not freshly bleeding. It's kind of like cut it into a fish, kind of where it's just kind of like wet, but not like a flow of blood.
You're actually not seeing any blood. You're not seeing any blood on the material of the clothing itself, and you're also not seeing any like pooled up or around the surface of his severed arm.
Where it was cut to, was it like cauterized at all or anything, like, or was it just a smooth just like slice and nothing?
You're
Just like,
seeing open blood vessels, open muscle tissue, open bone marrow. You're seeing completely open and exposed organic tissue, as though a large circular saw at a butcher shop was used to just very cleanly and quickly sever it with minimal trauma. And
okay.
that's definitely strange, because you should be seeing blood. You should be seeing blood kind of crusted, pooled, at the inside of, the arteries and all kinds of stuff, and you're just not seeing any. But again, all the